So, how do Americans see culinary culture nowadays? Is it still antiquated and relegated mainly for women? No. Cooking today has changed and has dismantled its archaic hold on the sexes. Men and women both belong in the kitchen and have continually made strides to expand the borders of cooking. The turn of the 20th century gave the world the second industrial revolution, political revolutions, and also the cooking revolution that Julia Child would champion in the mid-20th century. To preface the cooking revolution, we must look at what made it possible, beginning with technological advancements made in the 19th century. The penny press and the steam-powered press changed the course of mass media and communication. These inventions permitted the mass publication of books, papers, and promoted literacy. These presses allowed early cookbooks to proliferate and democratize information, allowing the average person to easily access new knowledge. With America's bustling urban environment, one constantly needed to be in the loop. Newspapers and advertisements were everywhere and catered to many demographics. For example, the Lily was a predominant women's newspaper at the time that was edited and published by women. It served to empower women as it advocated for progressive issues such as women's suffrage and equality. The second industrial revolution also brought along urbanization, leading to increased city development from immigration in America. This would aid in creating America's melting pot and shape America's palate. The process of electrification was also instrumental in creating the future broadcast infrastructure, allowing future generations to enjoy luxuries such as television. The electrification of American cities ushered them into a new era of consumerism and entertainment. So what does this all have to do with America's cooking revolution? Well, in the early 1900s, America experienced a roller coaster. Exiting the Gilded Age, Americans experienced economic turmoil in World War I. Americans rebounded in the Roaring '20s, but then were later brought down again in the Great Depression. During this time, America was engaged in its era of imperialism. This allowed America's booming markets to find new consumers and create a multicultural exchange, leading to a diverse culinary experience in American life. World War II would lead to the grand restructuring of the world and the dynamics in the household. This era also saw an enormous surge of European immigration to America, adding to its cultural and culinary melting pot. Traditionally, in the household, women were the homemakers, playing a major role in cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the children while men went off to work. However, with many men fighting in the war effort, women had to assume the roles of their male counterparts at home. This led to the diversification of the American workforce. Empowered by symbols such as Rosie the Riveter, women fulfilled jobs typically held by men at home. Women became the predominant breadwinners for a brief period in time, and this began a change in gender dynamics in America. With the conclusion of the war, women did not want to be relegated back to the home. Some wanted to pursue careers other than just homemaking. After the war, America had become a global superpower and revolutionized its worldview. America was now the center of the world and experienced another economic boom, resulting in its citizens receiving another upgrade to their quality of life. The creation of Levittowns and modern suburbia served as examples of America's post-war agenda. This homogenization of American culture would lead to the counterculture of the 60s and 70s and lead Americans to explore the traditions and cuisines of other ethnicities. However, this exploration of new cuisine perpetuated stereotypes of Asian Americans during an age of American imperialism. Many American recipes of the time were quite mundane for today's standards and were not too enticing. They prioritized the usage of leftover foods rather than creating decadent new delicacies from scratch. Instead, the culinary philosophy in America gravitated towards fast and convenient foods rather than wholesome and gourmet food. Later, TV dinners would also revolutionize the home cooking atmosphere, allowing dinners to be served in mere minutes instead of hours. In June 1946, the BBC would air the first culinary cooking show, Cookery by Philip Harbin. Soon, in August 1946, the United States would air its own culinary show by James Beard titled I Love to Eat. These shows aim to liven the minds of a post-war world and bring to light new culinary experiences. These shows, however, would not last long, but they would mark a key point in how Americans and people worldwide view cuisine, paving the way for Julia Child's introduction to the limelight. Julia Child was born on August 15, 1912, in Pasadena, California. and she experienced a privileged childhood growing up. She was not originally interested in the culinary arts and majored in history at Smith College in 1934. Child would also become involved in the war effort starting in 1941. Child joined the Office of Strategic Services in 1942. It was here that she experimented with cooking for the first time, having a role in the development of shark repellent. She also met her husband here. Paul Child would serve to be the catalyst that would launch Child's media and culinary career. When both of them moved to Paris in 1949, Child would enroll in Le Cordon Bleu, one of the most prestigious cooking schools in the world. She later revealed that she attended Le Cordon Bleu to keep her husband around because he was used to good food. Upon graduating in 1951, she joined a ladies' gastronomical club and then would later start her French cooking school. She had discovered her true passion in the culinary arts. Next, Child wanted to introduce her love for French cuisine to the broader American audience. 10 years later, in 1961, she released Mastering the Art of French Cooking. Julia Child was the product of a perfect storm. During a time of rising television viewership, economic growth, globalization, and cultural revolution, her show, The French Chef, exposed an ever more rambunctious American populace to a new culture of cuisine and television personality, revolutionizing America's perception of food, cooking, and the female chef. The show would become a weekly staple lasting over 200 episodes spanning 10 seasons and 10 years. The show urged people to take a more intimate approach to their food, encouraging people to ditch the quick and mundane TV dinner for a delectable French meal. During a time where people were becoming more environmentally conscious and wary of what they ate, Child promoted a deep learning of meal preparation, revealing new appreciation for details in one's food. She helped popularize dishes such as French onion soup, crepe Suzette, and beef bourguignon. In the show, Child would fearlessly explore and explain different types of French cuisine, exposing Americans to new tastes and experiences. She democratized cuisines and kept in clips of her own mishaps, empowering others to make their own mistakes in the kitchen. After decades of media and culinary success, Julia Child passed away on August 13, 2004. Child was accredited with creating a boom in French restaurants and interest in the culinary arts, generating a culture that got even more people, especially men, involved in the kitchen. It was such a culture shock for men to begin cooking. Cooking was such a gendered topic, and it was mainly seen as a feminine activity. This was the product of Cold War thinking and the belief that sexuality was based off of one's actions. Men were supposed to be the breadwinners, not the homemakers, adhering to the strict gender concept of keeping men masculine and women feminine and in the house. The concept of the emasculated husband perpetuated harmful thinking and prevented individuals from pursuing their true ambitions and passions. Many future chefs would be inspired by the phenomenal success of Child's show. Chefs such as Martha Stewart, Gordon Ramsay, Guy Fieri, and Jamie Oliver would also create hit culinary shows. Off the television and into today's digital world, chefs have navigated over to digital platforms such as YouTube, spawning a plethora of culinary content. Today, people watch culinary videos for more than just informative purposes. Cooking videos provide a major source of comfort and leisure for some Americans. They watch these videos for many reasons, whether it is to gawk in awe at culinary skills or to appreciate their favorite culinary personality. It is clear to see that Julia Child's legacy lives on, inspiring Americans every day to get in their kitchen and explore their culinary destinies. So, I had a question for you.
Yeah,
You watch cooking videos in your free time?
I do. Yeah.
Do you enjoy cooking yourself?
I love cooking. Yeah, it's a great way to make some great food, pass some time.
Where'd you learn how to cook from?
I say a lot from my parents, especially my mom. Taught me a whole lot of what I know, and a lot just from watching videos of people doing it. I watched a lot of the Cooking Channel or Food Network growing up. A lot of YouTube, cooking videos. That's where I learned some knife skills and stuff. Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite recipe that you learned anywhere, or anything in particular that you like to cook?
I sort of made my own little recipe for lemon squares, and I really like to cook those. I'm pretty proud of it, actually.
Hey Yvonne, do you cook at home?
I do.
What do you like to cook?
Mostly pasta and prep food.
Where'd you learn how to cook?
On my own through cookbooks.
Do you remember your first cookbook?
Something Martha Stewart.
Do you remember a favorite recipe that you learned to make?
Yeah, sun-dried cream chicken with kale.